Retirement feels like a deeply personal achievement, a hard-earned reward at the end of a long career. But in reality, it is one of civilization's most fragile inventions. It is a massive financial promise that modern economies are suddenly realizing they can no longer keep. We view it as a permanent feature of human life, like weekends or electricity. But what if retirement isn't a permanent feature of civilization at all? What if the entire concept is on the verge of quietly disappearing? To see why, we have to look past our bank accounts and uncover the hidden mechanism. Because retirement is not a vault where saved money sits and waits for you. It is a real-time transfer system hiding beneath the surface of daily life. Every single day, a retired person still needs to consume real physical things to survive. They require fresh food, active electricity grids, running water, and complex medical care. But a retirement fund cannot physically grow crops or repair a damaged power line. Digital dollars stored in an account cannot physically perform a surgical operation. Only people working right now can produce the real-world goods and services retirees use. This means modern retirement doesn't run on the wealth civilization saved yesterday. It runs completely on the physical energy of the workforce operating today. Money is simply a claim check on future labor, a token traded across time. To understand how absolute this limit is, consider a quick thought experiment. Imagine every retired person woke up tomorrow morning with $10 million in their account. Would that sudden ocean of wealth instantly create more nurses to assist them? Would it instantly create more farmers, more electricians, or more transit operators? No, because retirement was never actually limited by financial capital. It has always been strictly limited by the availability of active human labor. The financial system merely masks this raw, physical dependency between generations. This isn't a one-sided arrangement where one group simply carries the weight of another. It is a profound intergenerational contract built over centuries of industrial progress. The retirees of today are the very workers who built the physical foundation of our world. They paved the highways, constructed the power plants, designed the schools, and stabilized the grids. Modern civilization functions because they spent decades putting its physical architecture into place. The current workforce supporting them is simply paying back a massive historical debt. When industrial societies first designed this transfer system, it made perfect mathematical sense. Industrial society was structured like a massive, stable demographic pyramid. Birth rates were consistently high, meaning every new generation was vastly larger than the last. At the same time, human life expectancy was significantly shorter than it is now. Most individuals worked up until the final years of their physical capability. As long as every generation was larger than the previous one, the math quietly worked itself out. Dozens of active producers existed for every single individual in retirement. The collective physical strain on the working population remained entirely unnoticeable. The system was sustainable because the demographic landscape looked completely different. The design perfectly solved a critical problem for an expanding, youthful civilization. But a system built on the assumption of infinite expansion cannot withstand a sudden freeze. Over the last several decades, a silent structural shift altered the global landscape. Medical advancements allowed civilization to extend human lifespans further than ever before. Retirement transformed from a brief multi-year rest into a multi-decade phase of life. This meant retirees needed to consume goods and services for 20 or 30 years instead of 5. Simultaneously, a profound shift occurred at the base of the economy as global birth rates plunged. As families shrank, fewer young workers began entering the active employment pool each year. The traditional population pyramid rapidly inverted, turning into a heavy, top-heavy funnel. Suddenly, the system required a shrinking generation of workers to sustain an expanding generation of consumers. Because human biology requires continuous care, healthcare consumption scaled up dramatically. As medical needs intensified, more labor had to be diverted just to sustain the elderly population. This leaves fewer hands available to drive other vital sectors of the industrial economy. When workers migrate to healthcare, shortages begin appearing in manufacturing, energy, and infrastructure. With fewer producers supporting more consumers, the underlying economic engine begins to overheat. National pension programs and financial reserves instantly feel the structural tightening. The system realizes that the digital currency printed cannot compensate for the missing physical hands. A chain reaction of strain ripples across every modern economy, forcing a fundamental reckoning. Faced with an imbalanced equation, civilization has only a few ways to repair the mechanism. When the math stops working, modern economies try one solution, then another, in a logical chain. First, states attempt to alter the timeline by raising the official retirement age. By moving the goalposts to 67 or 70, they force older generations to remain producers for longer. But raising the age limits only delays the deficit. It does not change the birth rate. When changing the timeline isn't enough, civilization tries its second option: importing human labor. Developed nations open their borders, using immigration to quickly patch the holes in their workforce. They draw young workers from regions that still possess a youthful demographic structure. Yet, this solution also reaches a definitive limit as global fertility rates decline across every continent. Eventually, the places supplying the labor begin facing their own domestic shortages. When importing human hands fails to balance the ledger, industrial society turns to its final lever. If civilization cannot find enough human workers, it must radically increase the output of those who remain. Economies begin investing aggressively in hyperproductivity, advanced robotics, and automation. The goal shifts from expanding the workforce to multiplying the mechanical capacity of every single citizen. If one modern worker can leverage technology to produce 10 times more energy or food than before, then a tiny generation can successfully carry a massive, resting population on its shoulders. This desperate need for survival is what is truly accelerating the rise of artificial intelligence. Civilization isn't just building smarter software. It is trying to build workers that never retire. This historic shift reveals a much deeper truth about the world we have constructed. Retirement isn't disappearing because governments became corrupt or because individuals became selfish. It is dissolving because civilization quietly lost the single foundational assumption it was built upon. The assumption that every future generation would always be larger than the one before it. It was never a system guaranteed by pensions, stock markets, or central bank policies. It was guaranteed by an unspoken biological expansion that has officially come to an end. We are forced to look at our economic structures through a completely raw, physical lens. Money is a beautiful illusion, but human energy is the only true currency of civilization. As the human engine slows down, the entire blueprint of a normal life must be redrawn. This forces us to confront the next great logical question confronting our near future. If the machinery of automation is the only thing left to save the generational contract, and if there won't be enough human hands to keep the lights on, who is actually going to do all the work? Next time we look inside the invisible system of global automation.